to a special Kentucky Derby edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from Churchill Downs in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky, home of the 150th Kentucky Derby. And in Maryland, home of the Preakness, soon to be coming in 2 weeks, my longtime friend, John Webster. John, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing real good, man. Hey, thanks for coming aboard. I know you're really busy. We're just going to do a quick show today. We're really appreciative of you being able to take time. I know you're doing coverage live at the Kentucky Derby today, what is going to be the 150th running at Churchill Downs, man. Congratulations to you for being out there. I know you're going to do a great job. Tell us a little bit about it. I know you got about 20 horses in the race this year. Who's your favorite?
Well, my favorite is Sierra Leone, and I speak with a little bit of bias on that one only because I saw the horse race in the Bluegrass Stakes over in Lexington about a month ago, and the horse ran probably the most amazing race I've ever seen. The horse, trained by, trained by Chad Brown, and the horse balked at going into the gate like twice. I mean, really, really resisted. It was like, I thought if that horse backs out of the gate one more time, they're going to scratch him. And that horse was like one of the favorites. So the horse, it took like 10 guys to get the horse in there. And of course, they kind of scattered, because horses, they don't like to stay in the gate too long. So the horse breaks last, and his last for probably about a good half of the race. And then the next thing I know, at the top of the stretch, here he comes. He rallies from almost dead last to win by like 1.5 lengths. And, just I won't say he made himself the instant Derby favorite, but he earned enough points where he led the Derby standings. I think that really does count for something. Now, the favorite in this race is Fierceness, which is trained by Todd Pletcher and is coming off a dominant 13 length victory in the Florida Derby about 6 weeks ago. So that horse is the favorite right now. Sierra Leone is the second choice. But
Hey,
I
hey
like Sierra
Gary. Hey,
Leone.
hey, Gary. Can you tell
What's
me
up?
something? Tell us something. I got to ask you about this for Fierces. They tell me
Uh
he's
huh.
got some special shoes, some glued on shoes. Tell us about these shoes. They say they're the Jordan shoes for horses. Tell me about them.
Oh, yeah. There's been a lot made about his shoes. That's one honestly I'm still kind of looking into because look, I've been covering horse racing long enough to know to see that no shoe is different than the other, but a lot has been made about his shoes, and that's one I'm going to probably have to defer on right now. But I've heard, look, the whole it might be magic shoes, but then again it could be the horse, like because just like we say about Jordan, it wasn't just the shoes, it was the person wearing them, or in this case, the horse wearing them. Oh boy, you threw one at me on that one.
Hey man, I like I said, I love sports. Even though I don't know a lot about horse racing, I do know how to read. So I checked up a little bit on some of this stuff, man. And I
Yeah,
see they got another one, Japanese bred horse, Forever Young. Pretty tough one.
yeah. Both of the Japanese horses are pretty tough. They're racing next to her Forever Young and Tio Password. Now, here's the thing: Japanese horses have never won the Kentucky Derby because a lot of it is because of the travel. They have to come over here. They're quarantined for the most part. They're not on track. I mean, they'll train like everybody else, but they're kind of in separate stalls off track for a lot of reasons. They get checked out, and of course, in light of what happened here last year with 12 horse deaths around the Derby, including two on Derby Day, they're taking no precautions. But I consider these two horses kind of like, well, the proverbial dark horses. That Teal Password is 30 to 1. Forever Young is 10 to 1. I like Forever Young as like say maybe that upset pick because he's in a good spot in the 11th hole. Well, excuse me, now the 10th hole because we had one defection that that scratch, so they all move over a slot. So he's racing literally in the middle, which gives him a chance to be in the hunt when they break from the gate and hopefully entering the first turn. what happens after that just depends on who's the rabbit, the pace setter, and who's the closer. And that's the one reason why I like I like Sierra Leone because that horse is a fierce closer. Both of his wins this year have been from the back. Now it's a different story when you're racing in a 20-horse field and you're in the number two slot, and there's a chance you could really get bunched up against the rail. But this horse seems to have enough that he can probably avoid that. And I feel like if he's in the hunt and it's a little bit longer race, for him to get started, I think as long as I say, if he's mid pack, he's got a chance to really be a difference maker in this race, and that's the reason I why I like him. Now, here's another little tidbit, and you can probably identify with this. The other thing I like about Sierra Leone is that's the home country from a very good friend of ours from our church, Deacon Sam.
Wow. How about
Yep,
that?
yep. So so I did mention that to him, and he thought that was like one of the coolest things because look, this week today in particular, you're probably going to hear the word Sierra Leone more than you ever expected to. And if this horse wins the Derby, you'll be hearing about him probably for another 2 weeks at least when they come to Baltimore for the Preakness.
If Sierra Leone wins, should Sam get a piece of the winnings?
Hey, look, if his only if his family is invested in it, this horse was sold for $2.3 million at auction when it was a
Really?
yearling. So
Wow.
yeah, so the hope is that this horse can recoup some of its investment. Now, the horse has won probably about 500,000, close to $500,000 so far, and the payout for the Derby winner is like 1.3 million of a $5 million purse, and I mean it could be even more. I'm just kind of looking at it just to the ownership. So so there's that. But of course, in horse racing, it's not about what you recoup necessarily on the racetrack. It's what you recoup in syndication and stud fees. And I'm just going to leave it at that because, this is a family show.
Here's a question for you. Explain it to us. I keep hearing about post positions. What is a good post position and why is it important?
Okay. Most times, if you have in most races, I'd say it's anywhere from one to maybe eight positions. You really don't want to be up against the rail because when they all break toward the inside. And if you are hemmed against the rail, or if you start against the rail, unless you're a very, very fast horse and can get out ahead and not be bunched in, you're kind of wedged in by the first turn, and it's very, very, very hard to get out of it as you go around the second turn, backstretch, and such. Um, Everybody believes that it tends to be better toward from the middle to the outside. In a race like that, I think it's probably better towards the middle of a 20-horse field because, yeah, if you're on the outside, in a sense, you have to maybe run a little bit extra distance just to get to the inside. It's kind of like if you watch like a distance race in the Olympics and you see how like they're all like in 8 lanes and then they all kind of veer over into that middle lane and play follow the leader. It's kind of like that same principle with horse racing. Most owners, most trainers prefer to have their horses a little bit spaced out because, of course, like anything, like if you're in traffic, you prefer to be a lead car as opposed to say stuck in traffic and trying to pass, say, 19 other cars or something to get out front. But really, I'd say the ideal spot is somewhere in the middle in this race, anywhere from probably like the fifth post to maybe the 12th or 13th post, because again, everybody kind of goes to the middle and there's jockeying for position, no pun intended. And by the first turn, you can get a pretty good idea of who the rabbit is and who might be the horse to watch. So Um, I think again, if you're like Sierra Leone is in the number two post, which isn't ideal, but it's not as bad as the post position. So I feel like that horse has got a pretty good shot of being a contender. Has shown that he can kind of get out. The biggest question for him is just how much of an attitude does he have going into the gate, and just how fidgety he is, in the stall. But again, it's not a deal breaker. Now, the favorite fierceness, when the post positions were drawn last Saturday, he had the number 17 post, which is 0 for 44 in the Derby. Yeah, and so the owner of that horse was like, "Wow, yeah, we're the favorite, but we drew the number 17 post." He got a little bit of a break when one horse pulled out. So, like I said, that all of them move over one slot, and then another horse enters the field in that number 20 post, and the 16 post is a little bit better. I think the last Derby winner came out in 2011, so the odds are a little bit better. But I do think fierceness, even if he was in the 17 post, he's still listed as the number 17 horse. But even if he was in the number 17 post, he's good enough that I feel like he can be a player. He's good enough to say get out front. And of course, what he did in Florida and winning by 13 lengths against a very, very good field of possible Derby horses, I think it is impressive. And that's why he's gotten so much love so far.
Now, there was a horse, well, it's been a couple of them, I think, that have been scratched. I think one of them was Encino. Am I correct on that? How
Correct.
good was Encino? Would Encino have been a difference maker in this race?
I think so. Yeah, because that horse was trained by a Louisville-born trainer, Brad Cox, who grew up just a few blocks from here. And Brad Cox has been on his horses have been on a ridiculous streak here lately. I think it's like they've had something 19 races. I think out of 23 races, his horses have won maybe 19 with 4 seconds and maybe I think like 1/3. I mean, yeah, he's been on an incredible streak. But Cox is a very good trainer. He already has a Derby win by default from a few years ago when a horse was disqualified for a post race drug violation. Mandaloon is a champion, but he has been good enough here to win the Derby, and he's got a pretty good tandem left with let's see, with Catching Freedom, and let's see, I'm trying to remember the other one here. Just a Touch. So either one of those. Now, Just a Touch is a 10 to 1 choice. Catching Freedom is an 8 to 1 choice. So you've got two horses that could be in the money and could make money if you pair them right with maybe with one of the favorites. And of course, at 8 to 1, Just a Touch really does. I'm sorry, Catching Freedom really does have a chance to be in the mix, and he's breaking from like the 4 or 5 posts. So Brad Cox's horses are good. Of course, always Todd Fletcher's horses like Fierceness are the ones to watch. Trying to think of another trainer. I mentioned Chad Brown, who has done everything but win the Derby. Steve Asmussen is a Hall of Fame trainer who was, I mean, that close to winning the Derby 2 years ago before an 81 to 1 long shot. Rick Strike literally came out of nowhere to beat his horse Epicenter here. So you just never know what's going to happen at the Kentucky Derby. And that's, of course, that's why they call it gambling. That's why they call it a horse race, because you just never know how these horses are going to react, especially against other horses with 150,000 people here cheering them on when they break from the gate. Um, I'm trying to think of what else. The track is not perfect because we've had rain here. I think it's listed as good, which means it's not muddy, but it's not fast and dry like it had been, for much of the past week or so. So that's another question too with some of these horses. How will they run in less than ideal conditions? And I think as long as the track is good, most of the odds set for these horses should hold up in terms of being the favorites. Like say the top three choices.
Who does Gary Graves pick today? Who are you going with, Gary?
Well, like I said, I'm going. I have my little bias with Sierra Leone because I have watched that horse before, and his record speaks for itself. He's unbeaten this year, has maybe won 1 second in four starts. So I'm going with that horse. My second choice is Fierceness, which again only because of the post position, the number 16 slot that it's going to be really hard to get in there if he doesn't break fast. And my my sentimental pick is probably Honor Marie, which is named after a very good friend of, well, not named after, but I have a very good friend named Marie who who is a horse racing fan, and of course, she's over the moon because there's a horse with her name in it. So of course, I'm placing a bet for for her and probably all people named Marie.
That's great, man. Now, are you going to come back here for the Preakness? Are you coming in town for the Preakness?
Well, that weekend I'll be at the PGA Championship, which is here in Louisville in 2 weeks. So unfortunately, no. As much as I'd love to be there for the Preakness, because I always say if you can't make the Derby as a bucket list item, at least hit one of the other Triple Crown races because it's an atmosphere unlike anything you'll ever see. Now, of course, being from Maryland, I'm very biased toward the Preakness, and I have spent a few Preaknesses in the infield taking in the scene, which, of course, is not safe for work or a family show like this. You just have to be there to see it. This year, Jack Harlow is part of the infield entertainment there, so I'm sure that that's going to be something worth watching. For fans that are there, it's probably going to be hot, and again, there are going to be some things that you're probably only going to see retweeted on X, and I'll just leave it at that.
How many Kentucky Derbies have you covered?
This will be my 13th.
13?
Yep, 13th in a
Wow.
row.
Wow. And I must say, you look very debonair today. Very.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's the thing about this. A lot of people here come church ready, or in some cases casket ready. But that's another. That again, you have to be here to see it. I've seen some of the best hats, the most elaborate hats, and then there's some outrageous hats. I saw a guy with a pair of shoes that were in gold sequins, and he had glued little horse heads on the shoes. So there's that. Uh, but women's hats are probably the best thing. Even though I mean, look, John, we both go to church, so we know a thing or two about church hats. It's the same thing out here, and it's kind of needed out here because the sun right now is very brutal. So yeah, part of that is self preservation, but a lot of that is fashion sense as well. So again, it's a whole atmosphere. It's mint juleps. It's cigars. It's of course plenty of roses. So again, it's one of those things, John. I'm glad to cover it as a reporter. If I was as a sports fan, yeah, it would definitely be a bucket list item. But of course, everything being more expensive this year, it's a bucket list item where you better bring a bucket of money for food and everything else because again, like we talk about retirement and going to see all these different things. John, we're gonna have to almost find another job just to pay for tickets.
You and I will figure it out, Gary, because retirement is coming very soon for both of
Yes,
us.
yes,
We'll figure it
indeed.
out.
Yes,
Hey,
indeed.
real quick, let's dabble into the NBA, man. The NBA playoffs.
Okay.
You have Milwaukee is going home now. Philadelphia is going home now. That's in the East. In the West, the LA Clippers have gone home now. The Lakers have gone home. who do you have? Minnesota's moving forward. OKC's moving forward. Indiana's moving forward. The New York Knicks are moving forward like they just won the whole championship. Let's start in the East. Tell me what you thought. What your thoughts are on the East first, Gary.
Well, I still like Boston
Okay.
in the East. Yeah, I don't think that they played at their best against Miami. And I always with Boston, I always feel like they're the kind of team that kind of plays to the level of their competition, if that makes sense. It's like they can be the favorite, but sometimes they will play like a number eight seed or a playing seed, which is really, really frustrating. And I don't know, I don't want to say it's almost like they mail it in and just feel like, yeah, they can win it. But I think now that they've moved on, that they can kind of show really how good they are as a top team in the East because for this, if they won it by something like 14 games. So I think this is the time to really show it. Indiana is a team that kind of scares me. I don't. It's like they're kind of playing over their heads, and of course, since I'm at a betting venue, I'm going to say they're playing with house money right now, and that's a team I think you've got to really, really pay attention to. The New York Knicks. I think they are on a collision course to meet Boston in that next round, and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's New York versus Indiana, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think New York will get past Indiana, but I think it's going to be Boston and New York for the conference finals, just because those teams have really shown it. Jalen Brunson, I don't know what more you can say about a guy who's averaged 40 points over his last four playoff games and really has made that team his almost overnight. And I don't think that that's any exaggeration.
No, you hit it right on the head. Before we move to the West, question for you in the East: how much of a difference does the injury to Porzingis present to the Boston Celtics?
I think it is gonna make it will make a difference because they've got to find that guy that can kind of do it on both ends. Kind of like that guy that I don't want to say not a garbage guy, but someone who's not afraid to get in there and mix it up because he's gonna have to mix it up now. That's they got to play more physical. Boston has relied on finesse for a long time. They've relied on speed and finesse, and now they're at a point where they've got to be more physical, and that's going to be the question, especially without Porzingis.
Swinging out west, you got Minnesota playing Denver. You got OKC playing Dallas. What's going to happen?
Okay, Denver is Denver right now, and they can be down, and they've shown what three times in this series in the series against the Lakers that they can come back. I don't want to say that they toyed with the Lakers. I'm just saying that again they will absorb the punches and they might get knocked down and then get back up and counterpunch, and then they go for that knockout blow. It can be a couple of last minute or last second shots, or they can chip, or the way that they have chipped away at substantial leads and put themselves in the position to win at the end. They are still, obviously, as the defending champions, they are still the team that you want to beat. But I think the way that they played in that first series, whatever you want to say about the Lakers being out and the seeming disarray that they're in with letting Darvin Ham go as coach after losing, but I think this is still more about how Denver played and how Denver will play now, in the other series, and as far as Minnesota is concerned, that's another team I feel like is playing with house money. In the other series, OKC and Dallas, that OKC is they're they're young, they're energetic, but I don't think they're good. I don't think they know how good they are, but I don't think they're quite at that point where that they're that good to go to the next round. Dallas, on the other hand, is a team that I think might be the scariest in the West because we're talking about Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic in a way that we haven't talked about. We're talking about more what they're doing on the court and together than we are about some of the off court stuff, particularly with Kyrie Irving. They clearly have bonded together and created a one-two punch for the Mavericks that really makes them formidable. And the only surprise with that series against the Clippers is just how strong they were, how dominant they were, and particularly, what is it? The last two games, it's like they look like they're on the verge of losing the edge, and then let's see, they go on the road. No, yeah, I think what is it? They go on the road and they win by 30 or something, or at least 20, and then then they close it out. So I feel like that's a team that I don't think they're not afraid of anything right now. There's a term that it's like they're almost too good for their own good. Right now, but of course, when you get to this, and it's another 7 game series, and the grind becomes even tougher. That they're going to have to show it against a young team that really doesn't know they're not supposed to be here at this point.
We're going to wrap this up with one last segment
Hmm.
quickly. Cincinnati Reds are playing my Baltimore Orioles. Any thoughts?
I think it's still well, the Cincinnati Reds. That's another team that I've seen them a few times. Ellie Dela Cruz. My gosh, that kid is just ridiculously good. And the thing that I don't think people know about him, that dude is tall. To be playing shortstop and third base,
About
to
six
be
four.
something, yeah, 6'4", and to have that kind of power. I mean, you know who he reminds me of? Frank Robinson. Spindly, but with power and speed. And I will repeat, and speed. And that's what the Orioles have to really gear up for in a series like this because he can steal bases and he can turn a single into a triple really, really quick. Don't give him anything close to his own because again, when you're tall like that, he's got great bat speed, he's got great extension, he's got great range. He can be a very good bad ball hitter. He still chases a lot of bad pitches, but he can be a good bad ball hitter, a la Vladimir Guerrero. And that's the thing. Who, as it turns out, was another tall guy who could just about hit anything. Let's see, Vladimir Guerrero. There was another one out here. I'm trying to remember who was a good bad ball hitter. But and I want to say Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Good bad ball hitter. So if you're the Orioles, as good as things are going right now, don't don't give this young team that doesn't know it's supposed to be competitive a chance because Cincinnati is a fun team to watch. The Orioles are a funner team to watch, and it's not just because I'm a Marylander, but you know, with the way they played against the Yankees was a very, very pleasant surprise. I know you had to be happy, even with the loss. That was a very, very competitive game, and the Orioles they're showing they're not flukes. And I think they're out to prove that 100 wins last year was not a fluke. I don't think they really knew what they were doing. Now they know what they're doing. And even though it's a game lead, the last I checked, that they're still they're still playing. They're making others chase them. The New York Yankees, I think they were really surprised by how good Baltimore was in that series, and they had to earn those wins. It's not a walk off like it used to be.
Barry Graves, my friend, you brought it. You brought it strong. I greatly appreciate you.
Oh
Enjoy
man, thank you.
yourself today at the Kentucky Derby. Don't get that nice tie messed up, Gary.
Oh, no. I'm gonna be good, and I'm gonna be on deadline. So yeah, I'm gonna play it right. I'm gonna play it right, my friend.
Hey, you all heard it straight from Gary Graves live at Churchill Downs with the Kentucky Derby today. Check out the race, check out all the sports, but most of all, come back and see us again real soon. Take care.